Get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show, 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. It is 7:09, Thursday, June 2nd, 62 degrees, getting up to 68 today. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pup app and WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160 to join the conversation. We are now joined by our financial guru, Sean Monahan. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Doing well, Jeremy. How are you?
I am fantastic. And Sean and I were talking a little soccer in the break as we talk about really the high-powered world of youth soccer. It's so it's a cutthroat world out there.
It's a cutthroat world. What's going on?
So let's talk about something a little bit easier, a little bit lower stress. Right, yeah. Something that's not as important as all that. Let's talk instead about planning your financial future, right? So I know there's kind of an art form to it, Sean, and I know that you are an artist.
I'm an artist.
So why don't you explain to us exactly how you go about the process?
Well, what happened? A lot of times people come to us with specific questions. They're either getting ready to retire, or they've got some life event where they're inheriting money, or there's some life event that's causing what we call money in motion. And what we do for our clients is we put together a financial plan. And we've got some robust software. We take a deep look at the investments that they have. We stress test the portfolios. We can show what it's going to do in different environments. Last week I ran a number of real interesting projections for people showing what their portfolio would do if they had the exact same setup in 2007 through 2009. When the market collapsed by 50%. And that's usually fairly eye-opening. And then we take into account different income streams. Social Security planning is a big topic for people. There's a lot of different options on when to take it, how to take it, spousal benefits, and they're always shifting. They've shifted quite a bit here even in the last 6 months. So we look at a lot of those things and try to put together the pieces of the puzzle. And another one of the big challenges is healthcare costs. And long-term care costs. Those things are real. They're going to happen. They're going to explode in retirement. And you have to say, look, here's what the problems you might face are, and you got to look at it early on and hard and try to figure out a good solution for folks.
Now, how do you determine? I know that they have like these tables, right, about these like life expectancy tables that everybody uses, right? But isn't that like the biggest fear that I mean, there was a time certainly when you would have thought that if you retire with $1 million, that should be enough to last you forever, right? But now, if you're going to live to be 108, right, that's an issue. So how do you mitigate against that?
Yeah, there's a couple major demographic shifts that have occurred in our generation. One is the longevity. People they're living longer than they ever have. You can retire at 65 and easily expect to spend 30 years in retirement, and that's a new dynamic. So you really need to try to invest, try to make your money last. And one of the challenges along those lines, Jeremy, is that what your costs are. Say you retire at 65, a cup of coffee is going to be a lot more expensive at 85 or 95 than it is then. So the costs are going to explode. So what the income stream that you can generate today is not necessarily going to be what's helpful to you down the road. So you really need to take that into a cost. And the other thing that I always point out that can blow a hole in a lot of planning is long-term care. The other demographic shift is more of us are needing long-term care assistance, and that's expensive. It's very expensive. That those costs are twice what inflation is, and you got to protect yourself for those sort of costs.
Right.
And almost expect them. If you're a married couple at 65, statistically, one of the two of you is going to need that sort of care.
So you're advocating for divorce around 65, like because
if you're on your own, you just spend all your money.
Because your odds get a lot better, right?
Yeah,
if you, I mean, no, probably not.
Not really, no. And frankly, a lot of our clients have enough money where it's worth protecting. You know, that's it's if and the nightmare is, and I've seen it a few times here in the last 6 to 8 months, a year, where we've had some clients that are healthy as a horse, mid-70s, go into memory care units, and you could be there for 10 years. It's a nightmare.
Right.
So you got to really think that through. And what I always talk about is taking an approach that if you live, we plan as if you're for 3 scenarios. One is you're going to live too long, right? You got to make that income
Sure.
last. If you had $1 million to make it last for 30 years, you die too soon, right? So if you're our age and you got 3 kids and you got college around the bend and whatever the situation is, you have to take care of your wife and kids. And if you break down along the way, disability is a big problem too. If that happens, your earning years are usually the highest right before retirement, and that can throw a big dent into the works.
Sure. So have you ever had a conversation? I mean, this must be awkward, but have you ever had a conversation with somebody and said to them, listen, I understand what you want your future to look like, right? Your retirement future to look like, but you just need to figure out how to make more income today. Right. I mean, have you ever had someone walk out from a session from a meeting with you saying, gosh, I got to go look at what I'm doing career-wise, or I got to look at how I can pump more top-line revenue into this situation?
There's only 2 sides to the ledger, right? What you spend and what you earn.
Yes.
And I don't have pixie dust. And if people, unfortunately, my advice would be worthless if I didn't have those conversations.
Sure.
Right? If I didn't say, hey, look, here's how this looks like in 10 years if you keep doing what you're doing. And those are difficult conversations. Sometimes it's about housing. A lot of people have houses they've lived in and are emotionally attached to, and
right.
they don't want to sell that house. But at some point, hey, maybe you need to downsize this because the taxes and these costs
right.
are killing you, and it's your biggest asset.
Right.
Often cases. So, ever had that conversation? I haven't probably too often.
Right.
And most people are that's a very difficult conversation, and it's not easy, but in order to add value, you have to be able to have those conversations.
Sure, and that's really, I think that's the whole point of being with a financial advisor that you A, like, B, trust. Maybe we should flip those. A, trust, B, like. Because you need someone who's going to be able to have the hard conversations with you. It's almost like I assume it's like one part financial guru, one part therapist, right?
Yeah, behavioral finance they call
right.
it. It's an important part of what we do. And emotion is real. I've played out some cycles here with the markets and so forth. I mean, emotion it interferes with logical decision making, and it's one of the biggest. It can be one of the biggest problems people face is dealing with their emotions and their attachment to their money.
Okay, cool. So when we come back, we have another segment. When we come back, we'll talk about some other strategic things. What I'd really like to ask you about is, I want to ask you about what your feeling is on life insurance, because you mentioned life insurance and you mentioned how important it is. And so, there's a lot of different offerings in the world of life insurance, and I kind of like to get your take on where we should be on that, okay? Yeah. Financial guru Sean Monahan with us. We'll be right back after this.
Everything you need to know about the Jersey Shore. This is Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Now, back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin here with Sean Monahan, financial guru for the Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin show. And we are talking about, when we left, we were talking a little bit about life insurance. How do you determine what the right product is or what's right for you? How do you advise folks on that?
Well, it's a needs-based purchase, right? I think that people our age with younger kids, weird things happen all the time. I had a good friend of mine last year suddenly passed away at 44 years old with a couple young kids that are getting, around the bend from college. What I usually tell people is, peers, friends, that you want to have enough insurance to take care of your wife and kids, but you don't want to make your wife's second husband rich.
Right.
And you don't need to replace, if you talk to somebody that primarily focuses on life insurance, a lot of the time they will talk about replacing every nickel of income that you would have ever made, and they tell you need millions and millions of dollars. But I have a bare bones approach where I just say, hey, look, you need to get this in place. I am floored by the amount of people that put off doing this especially if you have young kids.
Right.
It's incomprehensible to me, to be honest with you. And it's so your question was about term or permanent insurance.
Sure.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of getting, if you're on the younger side, you get a term policy and you get it in place. I prefer policies that have conversion options, which mean that you can make it into a permanent policy. If you have a change in your health, for instance, and you want to keep that policy, you have something in place that you can change the policy into a permanent policy
right.
without further underwriting. So disability insurance is a big consideration. If you're a young professional, you're more likely to be disabled than you are to die prematurely. That's if you're a business owner in particular, that's a major issue.
Right. So those are great points. I mean, I think that I don't think that necessarily folks plan out what happens when they're, especially as a small business owner, right? And here in Ocean County, more than anything, we appeal to small business owners.
That's right.
Is that, if your income is based on your work, right? So if you're unable to do your work, what happens? What happens to your nest egg, to whatever you've built?
Right, your business, your employees. You have agreements in place.
Right.
If you're a business owner, I mean, the disability thing is a big issue, and there's the devil's in the details with disability insurance. I'll just sort of talk about that for a second, because really, you want to have, there's all sorts of different levels of care, terms, how long they pay it out for, what defines disabled is a big deal. For instance, if you're a medical professional, something happens with your hands, you might not be able to be a dentist anymore or a doctor, but you could teach at a university. So
right.
You're disabled. You used to make $500,000, now you can make $75,000.
Right.
So you'd want to make sure in that case you had a policy that covered the ability to use your hands,
right,
and not just do flip burgers or work at
right.
high school.
Like for me, if I was lying in bed, right, with my iPad on my chest, right, and if my iPad fell and onto my neck and destroyed my voice box, right, that would be crushing for my future. Right, so I would.
And
need
it would
to,
be crushing for Ocean County.
I mean, seriously. I mean, but we can't.
How do we wake up?
We can't insure a county in that way, can we? I mean, we can't. I don't even know that we're able to do that. Sean, we only have a minute left, so why don't you tell folks, as always, where they could reach you, where they can get in touch with you, how they could have the Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin financial guru working for them.
Yeah, well, the easiest way is you can call my office at 609-693-3800. Carolyn's my office manager. She'll take care of you. If you have questions, I can get back to you. You can always email me at Sean, S-E-A-N, spelled the correct way, at finalt.com.
So you're saying that spelling Sean, S-E-A-N, is the correct way, as opposed to those that spell it S-H-A-W-N?
Or A-U-N.
Those people those are just posers. They're not real Seans.
That's right.
Right? Is there like a more Irish way to spell it with an S-E-A-N?
E-A-N is the Irish way.
That's yes, because it doesn't sound phonetic at all. Sean Monahan, S-E-A-N Monahan. Thank you so much for spending some time again with us. We will see you in 2 weeks, right?
That's right.
Rock
Look
on.
forward to it.
Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Back with Brian Hanlon after this.
Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.